Hey, and welcome to my channel. I'm Tana J. Cohen, and in this episode, I'm going to share with you why HSPs struggle with boundaries and how it's all intimately tied up with self-esteem. So, just like an English person seeing a swimming pool after a long winter for the first time, let's dive in. So, what is the deal with self-esteem and how's it related? Having low self-esteem is kind of like a tree with very little roots. What happens the moment that the wind picks up or a storm is on the horizon? Well, it breaks, fractures, and falls. Whereas when it has roots that go deep into the ground, it can handle most weathers and doesn't need to do very much to say to the world, hey, I'm here, I'm rooted, and I'm not going to fall down when I'm pushed. Low self-esteem often leads us to take a backseat, avoiding confrontation or blaming ourselves for not being able to speak up and stand our ground. And this can often come from the low self-worth that we developed as children. Because let's face it, we didn't grow up in the most supportive society. We were often told to toughen up, and also having the difficult experiences of life affect us deeply would then defragment our sense of self and fry our nervous systems. And this is usually in the developing years, although of course this can then stretch into adult life. So how does it lead to where you are now? Well, imagine this scenario. You're in a situation where you're being taken advantage of or treated poorly, or perhaps you're just not okay with what's happening. You might be being overloaded at work or have a friend or partner cross a line. Instead of vocalizing what you're comfortable with and where you draw that line, you might retreat inward, potentially feeling overwhelmed, angry, and resentful, or more often than not, feeling like a victim. I personally used to just bounce from one to the other, placing blame to tearing myself to shreds because it's not always so black and white. Developing strong boundaries is fundamental to your mental wellness and your life enjoyment because it positions you as someone who quietly yet powerfully commands respect. You can communicate from a grounded place rather than either bending over backwards to keep the peace or resorting to accusatory communication, neither of which usually ends well. Now, will increasing your self-esteem and self-worth make you a perfect human being, expertly able to communicate your point of view with grace and strength and calm conviction? No, I still get this wrong, especially when old behavioral patterns from my childhood get triggered. But can you improve over time? Yes, absolutely. And even when you do get it wrong, you can very quickly identify why and contemplate how you wish to go about the situation in the future. Better yet, you can also learn about what old story or emotion got triggered to have you react so intensely. As they say, knowledge is power, and self-awareness to me is kind of like knowledge on steroids. Now, just a little interlude, because I know that HSPs can become victims to gaslighting and narcissism. I just want to put a little word of warning out there that if you are spending time with someone that is narcissistic and has a tendency to gaslight you and blame you for the way that you respond, it's likely that it's not actually your fault. Regardless of your trauma or your story or your insecurities, these people have an amazing ability to turn everything around on you. It's like stabbing someone in the foot and then blaming them for bleeding. And it's a topic that I'm really passionate about, so I hope to make some more videos on this in the future. Anyway, back to boundaries. In my experience, it's still better to practice having strong boundaries and get the communication bit wrong sometimes than to retreat inward and trigger feelings of brokenness and helplessness. Returning to that tree analogy, it's easier and less exhausting to mend a broken branch than to rebuild from a stump. Now listen, there's a substantial difference between learning to assert strong boundaries, even if you make mistakes, and shying away from expressing them. The former boosts your self-agency and emotional stability, while the latter chips away at your self-esteem and confidence. Something you can do is aim to find your edge when it comes to expressing yourself. Get comfortable with the discomfort of standing your ground and be proud of yourself when you fail, because sometimes you gotta fail at the game to become a good player. That was supposed to be New York, but it kind of sounded Russian. Russian. I'd love to perfect both accents, and now it's coming out South African, so I don't know. Anyway, I digress. And my HSP, ADHD, I don't even know anymore. Even to this day, when I do something outside of my norm, I can have an intense physical reaction to it. But I love it because I know how to regulate my nervous system and calm my mind while it's happening. I grow more and more every single time. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that I want you to constantly put yourself in uncomfortable situations or push yourself outside of your threshold so much that you're causing constant panic attacks. But I do want you to find the courage and internal stability to play around with your comfort zone, which then changes the patterns that have kept you feeling stuck, by finding the uncertainty of growth moreish rather than paralyzing. More often than not, it's changing the behaviors, even when they sting a bit, that then change the patterns, rather than waiting for a transformation to just land on your shoulders like a fallen feather from a bird in flight. Oh, if you haven't noticed yet, I'm a little bit crazy and I like to have a lot of fun. And I hope you do too. Now, if you want to develop this warrior like playful yet powerful mentality, you might want to check out my free Mindful Rebellion evening practice, which I use to give me the tools to feel grounded, keep it stable, and uplevel my life. It provides you with a set of nourishing and restorative journal prompts that cultivate your emotional stability and self esteem so that you can overcome life's obstacles like expressing your boundaries without falling to pieces or shying away from the growth that you're probably about ready for. Otherwise, why else would you be watching this channel? The link is in the description below, so click on that to get this free little gem that works like a charm. I hope this video has given you some insight delights. Thanks again for being here, and keep being the sensitive soul that you are, and go easy on your wonderful, wandering and wondrous mind. And please, if you like this video, then help me help you grow by clicking on that subscribe button now. And I think it's just about there. And there's even like a little notification bell. You can click on that too, and then you'll be updated anytime there's beautiful content for HSPs just like you. See you soon.